Hey guys, just want to preempt this by letting you know that this podcast episode is going to be split into 2 or maybe even 3 episodes. The conversation was just so interesting that I just couldn't ask the guest to shut up. So it is a really enjoyable episode, so I hope you do enjoy it. Hello and welcome back to the Satanist podcast. With me today... Oh, Mag, do you want me to say your full name or would you prefer to just have your first name?
What, my full name of the vegan moon cat?
I would say I'm with Mark Henderson.
Or do you want to say Mark Stewart Henderson, and then give him my address? I mean, what is it?
Yeah, if you got like your bank details, that'd be ideal.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've already given that guy the other day because I've won $1 million. I just needed my bank details to transfer it into. So, I gave them instantly. So, soon I'll be making really high budget stuff with the money that's going to be coming in. It's great. You can say Mark Henderson. My name,
cool.
Normal names everywhere.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep all of that in. So you're the vegan mooncat. So you've gone through a huge transformation regarding your health, right? Could you walk us through that journey?
All right. Most of my life, I've been up and down with my weight and health generally, and for the most part, I've been a very fat. I'm not afraid of the word fat. Some people don't like it. They like to use words that seem less harsh. But no, I'm and I'm still fat. But I was very, very fat. Yeah, I got up to 34 stone just over 3 years. I think it was about 3 and a bit years ago now. That was at my peak sort of weight, and I'd become very, very ill. Well, apart from the obesity itself and the toll that actually being that kind of weight takes on the body, with your joints and your back, and all those other sort of like obesity related, weight, physical weight pushing down on you with gravity illnesses. Yeah. I also had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Eating all those animal products and etc. would have certainly not helped with that part of it. I was pre-diabetic, and as we know, animal products don't help with that either. Right. I also had sleep apnea, so you have to wear a mask that pushes air down your airwaves overnight, because basically all the fat around your neck sort of like squashes your airwaves basically, and you stop breathing multiple times throughout the night, and your body has to wake you up to stop you dying. So I was waking up about 80 times a night.
No way.
But I don't know I'm waking up. I'm just coming out of deep sleep back into light sleep. So without deep sleep, you really are never fully rested. So the next day you're falling asleep, you've no energy, you're an absolute mess. I also, for some other reason, which is probably just my body breaking down, developed very, very severe psoriasis. Now, when people say psoriasis, you just think you've got a bit of an itchy elbow or something like that. But it was like about 70% of my body was just covered. It was really, really over. It's basically when the body's normal process of replacing skin cells goes haywire. So instead of like doing it every whatever amount of days, it does it every 3 days. So it starts building up because it's got time to get rid of the old ones. So you get thick parts of your skin where it starts cracking, bleeding. I was going to work wearing like 2 sets of trousers because I was bleeding through the first ones.
No.
It was absolutely crazy, mate. Absolutely crazy. And that was really, really bad. It was that made me feel so down. You feel bad enough as it is, without your skin going entirely mad and bleeding everywhere. It's not good. I mean, it's probably not a politically correct thing to say, but my daughter looked at me because she knew I was unwell. She said, Daddy, if you ever leave or, anything ever happens to you, I'll never forget you. And I went, oh, I really appreciate that. She said, well, I can't with all the flakes that are lying around on the your skin. I said, what you want? It's just like she thought she was hilarious, obviously. It's I thought it was a tender moment and it was just a child taking the rip out of me. Well, thanks, child. I appreciate that. I feel great. So yeah, I had that. I also had something called venous insufficiency, which is basically the blood vessels in the legs can no longer fight. I think if I remember it correctly, they just can't push the blood back up. The blood goes down, but it ain't coming back up. So it just pools in your legs.
Oh.
So my legs were swelling. They were going a weird brown color. And obviously, when blood pools around and can't move around the body, then it can clot. then you can
Yeah.
get like thrombosis, and you can get clots going into the brain, get strokes, heart attacks if it goes into the heart, all sorts of terrible things. So yeah, that was another one. I seem to be listing a lot of illnesses for you, don't I? Sorry about
You've
that.
got NHS website full of all the illnesses.
I'll just refer you to the full list of illnesses. It saves, because otherwise we'll be here for 4 hours. No, I'm kidding. We're coming to the end. There's obviously the psychological aspect of it. When you're that kind of size, you no longer want to be around people because it's embarrassing. You feel like people are looking at you. People do look at you when you're that size, and you hear people muttering and things like that.
Oh wow.
But then that takes such an effect on you that you don't even want to go to family members' houses. Because you just don't want to be around. You just want to like sit isolated, in your home. I said to Paul from Hencherbivore a few years ago when I spoke to him, about this, and I was saying, Paul, to be quite honest, I was waiting to die. I thought it's not going to be long. Everyone's better off without me. I'm eating myself to death. And this is just how it's going to be. This is how I'm going to die, and that is the mindset I was in.
And when you say you were waiting to die, do you mean
I didn't want
you think
to
it's
die.
inevitable? Okay.
I didn't want to die. I just thought it was inevitable. I like many people who have had a weight problem, have tried many ways of doing it and failed. Mainly because I didn't find any that I could cope with doing long term. I always reverted back to old habits. And it's never a great thing. Anyway, so there's the mental state, and then I also had a heart arrhythmia.
Okay.
So basically, at one point they were talking about putting a pacemaker in because it just wouldn't stay in the right rhythm, and it kept going into the wrong rhythm, kept getting up a very high, rate. I think the last time I was taken into hospital with it, I was at like 230 beats per minute, something like that, or whatever. So it's very high. Your heart keeps going on at that sort of rate in the wrong rhythm as well. You're going to die because while it's pumping crazy, basically the top chambers of the heart aren't beating in synchronicity with the chambers of the heart underneath, because there's 4 chambers. And because they're not in sequence, the heart's going mad, but the blood's not going anywhere. So that's pooling, just like the legs are. So the blood's just pooling around your heart, and it's not going anywhere, which really puts you at serious risk of strokes, etc. And obviously, while your heart's going that fast, it's got so much to cope with. Trying to keep a 34-stone man going, it could easily fail because it's already under enough duress as it is. So you get in a pretty bad way. So they sedated me at that point because they tried some drugs. It wouldn't slow down. So they just did something called a cardioversion, which is basically where they put the paddles on and paddle you back into the right rhythm.
Oh wow.
Which is scary.
Are you do you have anesthesia for that, or you feel everything?
No, they put you in a. They don't knock you out. What they do is they put you. They sedate you slightly, so you're
Okay.
you're a bit sleepy. But when they jolt you, you come back up again. It's like it's like you didn't sedate me that much. I could feel myself coming back. I felt I was awake. I was begging the doctor not to let me die because I said I was waiting to die, but I don't want to die, And I realized it had come to this point that this was probably This was going to be the one. And I said to the doctor, "Please don't let me die." And he goes, "No, we'll look after you. We'll look after you." And then I just remember, it was probably the sedation. Just remember slipping away, sleeping, and I just remember waking back up again. I was quite pleased that I was awake again, but and at that point it did come back into the right rhythm, which I was very lucky again.
Yeah,
it came back. The heart rate came down, and I was very good. And I know this can be, anyone with a arrhythmia of the heart. This can be a necessary procedure. If it just won't come down of its own accord. But it's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous thing. No matter if many of us get it or not, because we get it. We all get these illnesses for probably the same reasons.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of us do anyway. So they were talking about putting a pacemaker or doing something. I can't remember the word, like ablation. It's where they scar parts of the heart with they go in and burn it. Just because what causes it is messed up electrical signals, I think, in the heart. And I think mine was mainly caused due to my heart was enlarged. There's all sorts of things going on. The electrical signals aren't working right, so they deaden certain heart electrical signals, so it won't. What doesn't keep doing it. Anyway, they discharged me from hospital. They put me on medications for it, blood thinners daily to sit in case I did have an incident. Then it would stop my blood clotting and killing me. And then they also gave me beta blockers to keep the heart rate down. And I was already on other medications for everything else I'd listed, basically. So I had a lot of medications going on.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember how many, but there's quite a few medications happening. So yeah, I was in a pretty bad way. That was in my 40s. Your body copes with things through when you're a bit younger, even like severe, amounts of obesity and stuff. It tries to do its best. It's a resilient thing, but you can only kick it in its teeth so many times before it just can't cope anymore. And it gives up. And that's what was happening to me. Literally everything that could be breaking was breaking. My breathing was terrible as well. I literally couldn't bend down I couldn't even put my own shoes on. My son Tom had to help me put my shoes on. I'd walk across the room and I'd be out of breath, puffing. My breathing is completely gone. But yeah, not good at all. Not good at all. I should shut up for a second and let you speak. You probably
No, I'm here to
something.
interview you. I'm just here to ask some questions. And if I understand correctly, there was one specific event where the doctor gave you a short time to live.
It was just after the incident that I told you about, where I went in for that last cardio version. And the kids were outside and I could hear my mum and dad. They were outside the room. I could hear them all crying, and I thought, this is it. I'm leaving them all behind. And for what? Because I can't stop shoving, unhealthy food in my mouth. What an idiot. What are you doing? You don't want to die. You don't want to leave them alone. You don't want to leave them without a father and without a husband and without sons. But you just can't. I did have and still do have a problem.
Okay.
I have an overeating issue. Should we go back further? So it's just so you can see where this all stems from. We'll go. Four score. A long time ago when I was a child, I was as thin as a rake up to about the age of 8. Absolutely no weight on me whatsoever. I was super skinny. And then my dad decided, he's gone now. And let me preface this. Later on in my dad's life, he did try to make amends for the way he was when we were a lot younger. But he was a father that was bringing up children in the 70s, so he's very handy. He was very very ill-tempered, very physically abusive. And not the greatest of dads, to be honest, at that point. But I had my 2 brothers. I used to play with my brother Jason a lot and whatever. But then he reached a certain age where he didn't want anything to do with me anymore. He was going through the same stuff I was going through. He was in a bad way with his own mental state.
Yeah.
He didn't want me, so he didn't need me around. So anyway, he started mimicking my own father's behavior. So he was giving me abuse, verbally and physically, and not anywhere near to the level that my dad was. Then my older brother Paul, he also started in the same way, always trying to fight, hit me and stuff like that. So and then my mum was not violent, but I think she knew how to cope with such craziness in a house, and she almost, I think, shut down herself. To a degree, so it made her quite shut off emotionally. I think the whole situation in the house. So there was no love coming from anywhere. Not to be soppy, but there absolutely wasn't. Yeah. So I just turned to food. I don't know why. I think partially I thought to myself, if I eat lots of food, I'll get big and people will stop hitting me. I think that was in there. It's just a shame I didn't realize at the time that you can get muscular. You don't have to get fat. But that would have been a better route to go. But it was like I was eating out of comfort. I was very upset. I was eating to sort of like the taste pleasure and everything else was calming me down, making me feel better, making me feel like my life wasn't so terrible. I was a sensitive child. And then obviously the fact that you think you'll get bigger and bigger until people just don't hit you anymore. And I was getting teased at school a lot because of the weight gain, and it was just a terrible cycle which led to everything that I just said before. Yeah, that was after the incident I mentioned where I went into hospital and obviously the kids were crying. I thought I was going to die. And after that, I was discharged from hospital with medication. But the doctor did say that at some point, we're going to give you these medications, hopefully, if something else occurs, it'll be able to stop it, but it can't be guaranteed anyway, and at this rate, you're just heading for death anyway. Probably 6 to 12 months, you'll have like a cardiac event or something that we won't be able to save you from, because your body's under such duress as it is, just existing. It's under so much strain that anything above that, an infection, another cardiac issue, anything like this can just tip the whole body over, and you can just die. It's got nothing left. You pushed it to the limits, basically, and we'll keep you ticking with these drugs as long as possible.
I don't know if you're comfortable answering this question, but
hold on. Is it about underwear? Because if it's about underwear, I'm just not comfortable. I've told you this before, Reese.
I wanted to know, how did you feel in that moment?
When the doctor spoke to me, for a moment, it just confirmed what I'd always thought. I'm doomed. I'm absolutely doomed, but then I left and I was thinking about it, and I had the kids and all these, and I thought, no, this, you've really got to start doing something about this. You've got to make a change. But when you're in such a bad pattern, you don't, and you've done something for so long in such a terrible way, you don't know where to turn. So I thought, well, who would you turn to in times of not worry, when you're worried about your health? Who would you turn to, Reese? Who would you think you would turn to?
About my partner?
No, you turn to the doctor. You'd go see a GP.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
You'd go to, you could go to your unqualified, partner who's not part of the medical profession.
I thought you meant for like emotional support.
No.
Okay.
Well, you can get emotional support from a partner. No one told me this.
No one told me.
I'm kidding, Cherie. I'm kidding. And no, so I went to the doctor, and he said, well, you're in a mess. We'll keep, all I can really do is keep giving you these medications, and there you go. That's your lot. I can refer you to a dietitian, even though I've been referred to dietitians before, and I've told them, this isn't helping matters. It's the same old rhetoric. It's the same old. They're not in the business of preventing you being ill. They're in the business of trying to stop you dying when once you're ill, with medications. So it's like, oh, well, that was a lot of help. Then what do you do after that? You've gone to the doctors. What else do you do? No, you don't go to your partner, Reese. What you do is
I know this one. You go to the internet.
You turn to Google.
Yeah.
I mean, Professor Google, he literally knows everything. So, you can, I should have gone to him in the first place. His credentials are huge. So I started Googling, all my ailments, like diabetes and, pre-diabetes, heart arrhythmia, obesity, obviously, venous insufficiency, everything that I listed before, basically, psoriasis, and, different ways of helping with that. And, people were saying, were coming up with different, elimination diets, and people were saying, do this, do that, or the highly expensive diets, like the Cambridge diet, where you just drink shakes and hot water and things like that, and they charge you like hundreds of pounds or whatever. All these different sort of fad things, which you'll lose weight on, won't necessarily improve your health, and you certainly can't sustain it. So there's all these different sort of like, I'll make you lose 14 pounds in like a week, and it's all of that. But I didn't think it. I've seen it, tried it, done it all before. It's not going to work. I did initially decide to go to. I was encouraged to go to a slimming club. So I won't name the slimming club. And I did lose a little bit of weight at the slimming club, but I still felt absolutely terrible. No improvement in any of the illnesses. The psoriasis was still as bad as ever. This particular slimming club promotes as much meat as you like. You can eat as many dead animals as you want, as long as you trim the visible fat. So you can eat bacon as long as you cut the rind off. You can eat as much.
They actually say you can eat bacon.
Yeah. Bacon,
wow.
class 1 carcinogen. You can eat that. You can eat pork chops. Just don't eat the fat off the edge of it. You can eat as much steak as you like. Chicken and fish. Knock yourself out. You
I'm
know,
curious. What do they say no to?
you've got to
Vegetables and
limit.
fruit.
No, fruits and vegetables you are allowed.
Okay,
They
okay.
recommended only like 2 slices of wholemeal bread. Basically, it's all you can eat, apart from a few, even on like fruits and vegetables and meats and rice and other great, even white rice and stuff, and white pastas and all these. You eat as much of it as you want. Just don't eat as much cheese. And so much bread, and certain things have like a value, which means that you can only eat over those things. You only get so many points or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
To eat over that, it's just so like the junk food. They're trying to stop you eating chocolate bars and trying to stop you eating anything like that. And I lost a little bit of weight there, but as I say, it wasn't a major amount initially. This isn't helping. And all I want to do is, I'm still hungry, I still feel like I need to eat lots of food. I'm now eating like 4 jacket potatoes, which are obviously good for you, but then loaded with like, chicken and bacon and, and all sorts of stuff. So, it's not really, helping matters, is it? So I still felt ill. So I thought I'll go do. I'll consult Professor Google once again. So I went on there, and there was a guy. Now this wasn't about veganism or plant-based eating. This was originally just about drinking fruit juices. Freshly squeezed fruit juices. This guy was doing it extreme. He was doing it. I think he was on like a 60-day juice fast.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that was crazy. But it was basically, during the show, he was basically talking about. He was doing this, and he had an autoimmune disorder, and he was obese, and he was drinking these juices and whatever. Now, and I didn't want to do a 60-day juice fast under any circumstances whatsoever. But they started talking about micronutrients and all the nutrients in the plants and getting them into your system, and that helping with autoimmune disorders and things like that. And the doctor was talking. The doctor in there, I think it was Dr. Joel Furman. I think he's quite well known. I don't think he necessarily agreed with a massive 60-day juice fast, but he was saying if this starts you on the right path, to health, then something's worthwhile. So I think I did a couple of days of like 3 days of making these juices and drinking them, and it was just fruit juice, and I was making it was like whole cucumbers, limes, like these kale, all these different things, and everything that I never ate. So I did this for a few days, and I was thinking I actually feel so much better. I said, what was I? I feel so much better already. My psoriasis was dying down a little bit. It was whatever, and I lost a bit of weight, obviously, because you're only drinking juices. Sure. And I thought, well, this is really good. But I remember in the film, he said after that he was going to go on a fully plant-based diet until he cured his autoimmune disorder. And then obviously, ultimately, he went back to eating omnivorous. But, obviously, but it wasn't that. It basically, started off drinking a few juices, getting some plant-based goodness in me from that way. And then after the third day or whatever, I thought, you know what? I mean, I've been doing some research, and he said he did it at the end of it, and he did get very slim. Well, you will do. He started, but he did also cure his autoimmune disorder, which is basically what psoriasis is probably classed as. And he also helped another guy in the show called Phil Staples, and he cured a lot of other illnesses as well. So I thought, maybe there's something into this eating this plants thing. So I said about 3 days, I just drank the juices and stuff. I don't recommend that for anyone, by the way. I don't recommend any sort of fad, sort of like that. If you do it for a couple of days and it gets you out of a bad habit, so you can then progress onwards,
like a reset,
like a reset, a detox, a short burst of like getting out of your system, that's fine. Certainly nothing prolonged, definitely not. I don't go for water fasting or any of that. No fad diets. So I did that, and I started on the plant-based diet, and within a couple of weeks I was like, my psoriasis was like 50% gone. It's like, and it was covering like 70% or more of my body, and it was like 50% of it was gone, and all the redness and the fierceness, and it was all going down. I'm thinking, wow, this is awesome. And I was doing a lot of recipes and stuff at the time, so I actually wasn't missing out on anything. Now, going back to where I said before, and why I went back to my childhood, is I have an eating disorder from childhood where I overeat.
Yeah.
Now, the difference when eating high fiber plant foods is they're calorically a lot less than chicken, bacon, and cheese and milk and all these other things. So for somebody who has a psychological problem where they feel this drive to eat until they're very full, eating a whole food, because it was a whole food plant-based diet. I was just eating whole plant foods. There was no junk, there was no processed vegan meats or anything like that in there. But so the calorifically, you're eating a plate this big, you're super full. But if you were to eat if you wanted to eat that much food with an animal-based, eating sort of program, it would be like, that would be like 10 times the calories. I don't know, it'd be a lot more calories. I was thinking, yeah, this is good. This is working for me. I mean, I can eat a really good meal still. I was still eating curries. The only difference is I was taking out any animal fats and animal flesh or anything else. So, and I was substituting like beans and potatoes and things like that. So like sweet potato curries with chickpeas and different things in there. So I was still eating, and I switched to whole grain sort of rices, and I didn't particularly practice any portion control, to be honest. I was still eating a lot of food, but I was making sure that it was very, very fiber rich, and completely and utterly plant-based, no animal products whatsoever. Weight started to drop off. Psoriasis started to go away. I felt loads better. I felt just more energetic, and the weight was coming off quick, but I didn't feel like weak and fragile, like I was just eating grass, because I was eating, like, as I say, beans, chickpeas, all the other legumes, etc., a whole grain rice, potatoes, all the fruits and vegetables, just everything that grows, quinoa. I didn't even know what quinoa was beforehand, all these different things. And, I felt so much better, but I didn't feel I was missing out on anything, because I was eating, I'd like to call it, and I'm sure other people do as well, veganized meals that you would normally eat. So you just take out all the animal products and you put in all the whole plant foods. Still the same dish, still the same herbs and spices and flavors that you've always enjoyed. It's just better ingredient, a healthier ingredient in there. So I started to feel so much better.
Now, a lot of people say when they give up meat or they have a meal without meat, they feel like they're not finished or they're not full at the end.
I know why that is. Because I've come across a situation when I started, and I'm going to call it plant-based because that's what I was at the time. Didn't do it for any ethical reasons. It was purely selfish to begin with. Purely, I'm not going to lie. It's no point.
Well, I mean, at that time you had to put yourself first.
Yeah, I was in critical condition. So I knew I had an eating problem. I knew I couldn't starve myself. If I was to starve myself or not eat enough food, and then I would be on it a week, and then I'd be back to where I was before. So I made sure, and all that I'd read about it, and I also watched YouTubers like Paul from Hench Herbivore, who said, eat everything and eat enough of it. Make sure you got calorically enough. And he recommended using an app called Chronometer at the time, which was basically to check that you're getting all your nutrients and getting all the calories that you need. Now, when I've met other people over the years that I've been vegan, what they tend to do when they go vegan is they just remove something from their plate. So they will say they normally have like their I don't know, potato, like Sunday dinner. Yeah, they just take the beef off it and leave a plate of, and they don't even increase the amount of it. They literally just have the same food that they've always had, and they just lift off the animal, take the animal products off. That's what a lot. Or they have a salad. Everyone else is eating the Sunday dinner, and they have a really low cal salad.
I had a suspicion that was what was going on. when people
Yeah,
say this.
so that's what people tend to do. They cut everything out, but they don't include everything else. So I'd never eaten, particularly eating chickpeas or beans, or I had never really gone for quinoa or freekeh or whole grain rice or any of these other things. I'd never really gone sweet potatoes. I've never had these things particularly. And if all I'd done was just take out the animal products and then tried to live off salads thinking that's what vegans eat,
Yeah.
I'd have been knackered. I'd have been absolutely knackered because it wouldn't have been calorically dense enough to give me the calories to lose weight healthily, and I wouldn't have felt satiated. So I would have given up. So that I think that a lot of the time that's what happens with people. They just remove things because they know they can't have it anymore, but then they don't look into all the other good stuff that you can have to take its place. You have to replace it with the good stuff. If you're going to take all, plants are protein. Don't get me wrong. If you're going to take a main source of like protein and everything off your dish, your plate, and just leave like salad with some sliced up cucumber, and you've just took the chicken out basically. Wow, how bad's that? So you've got to get into the habit of cooking and using these other more calorically dense foods, and initially also, and even now I still started using tofu and tempeh, and which are slightly more processed. They're not a whole food, but there's nothing bad in them, and not quite as good as the whole bean, for instance, but still pretty good. So they were a really good way, to fill the plate up, so it's not just a pile of lettuce layered with cucumber.
I think people are scared of things like protein, or people have tried not protein. People are scared of tofu. They've tried it without doing anything to it.
Well, that is the problem. When my brother, because I tried to tell him the benefits, because he wasn't feeling too well himself. When he first started using tofu, he would literally slice a block up. And think that was how you ate it. There was no marinating it, no getting all the extra liquid out. Tofu is good depending on what you do with it. If you cook it correctly and you make sure that you get a lot of flavor in there with herbs and spices and and everything else, it's absolutely delicious and a great source of all sorts of stuff. I think it's got lots of B vitamins in, lots of protein, no saturated fat, no cholesterol. It's good for you, but people just don't know how to use it.
I know we're talking about whole food plant-based right now, but usually when I'm talking to someone who they're worried about taking the meat away, I tell them, just have the same meal you're having now and buy the vegan alternative. You have a burger, buy a vegan burger.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, if you're eating, I was emergency measures,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I didn't even try to transition. I just went straight in. And I know transitioning is probably a recommended thing. I mean, we all want people to stop eating animals straight away. But, a lot of people, when they're going from a terrible animal-based diet straight onto, say, a whole foods plant-based diet, with that increase in fiber and all, it can cause, gastric difficulties initially. So, with bloating, not used to that much, trying to eat a load of beans when they're not used to it, it can be a bit problematic. So, I understand why, the vegan in me wants people to go, just stop eating. Just stop eating animals now. The practical person in me goes, maybe give it a few weeks, build up your tolerance to high fiber foods a bit more, and just wean yourself down, just so, because you want people to do this forever. You don't want them to try, for a couple of weeks.
That's a good point.
And then fail.
This transition period for you, you're thinking it's a bit of a necessary evil to be able to sustain.
I think so. I felt so ill to begin with. A bit of stomach discomfort and and other things wasn't really, just didn't even touch the sides. I was so ill to begin with. It didn't matter to me. But a lot of people I've spoke to, over the years, they'll go vegan. They'll increase the amount of legumes that they're eating and a lot more fiber. Before that, the fiber content was nil. They'll start getting bloating. They'll feel sick. They'll think, oh God, this isn't sustainable. I can't do it. A couple of weeks later, they're back on the meat, and the dairy. If they have to, wean onto it and just build up a tolerance, have a few beans, build them up, take take more of the animal products off, add a bit more in, and get their gut, because also their gut microbiome's wrong at the moment, isn't it? I mean, they've been eating all this junk food and all these other things, so all the good strains of bacteria which like fiber, they've not got many. So they're putting food into the stomach, which I think is what part of the bloating is, as far as I'm aware. You'll have, maybe speak to somebody a bit more knowledgeable about this, like Paul or whatever. But you're putting food and you don't have the gut bacteria that's used to eating that. You've got the bad strains which are used to eating animal products, etc. So I think the good stuff's called the Prevotella bacteria, and I think the bad stuff's Bacteroides, is it? If I'm remembering that correctly. And if you've got a disproportionate amount of that, you need to change that gut microbiome over a few weeks to make sure that you can tolerate certain types of food. Really. So I suppose that's when some of the products, such as like the meat replacements and stuff, might come in handy for somebody, because they haven't got as much fiber in. So they're not going to cause maybe as much issue as going straight onto something like a whole food plant-based diet. So if somebody's wants to go whole food, I think they should really maybe wean onto it. So I think we want vegan overnight, obviously, for ethical reasons, but if we want people for the long term, then we've got to look at something practical. And if that involves them spending a few weeks, going onto a plant-based diet, a vegan diet, and keeping some animal products in until they've managed to get to a level where they can tolerate the whole, the plant foods, then that's got to be worthwhile, because then you've got them for the long term and they're not just going to quit on you, well, on the animals. But the transitional period, I think, is possibly a good idea for a lot of people. Especially if they're going to try and go in straight whole foods, whole plant foods. If they're going to use a bit more of the vegan sort of processed foods initially, which are low in fiber, maybe that wouldn't be as
they're
long
generally
as
like nutritionally similar as well to the, I'm going to say,
they're not going to be any worse off.
No,
they're
absolutely.
definitely going to be better off. For their own health. They might be quite high salt still. Some of the
that's true.
The vegan meats and things like that, but they don't have any cholesterol. So there you go. You're not going to contribute to high cholesterol with them, are you? So they've got a plus on that side. They're all normally high in protein. So you're certainly not going to miss out on protein. And they're similar to the in texture and taste or whatever to what you were used to. So you're not going to initially feel you're missing out on anything. I'm not saying that they're super bad for super good for your health, but they're certainly probably better than what you were eating, and a good gateway food.
It's a gateway food. I don't know if this is the same with like other vegans and other plant-based people, but I think most people do start with these processed things and they just eat the same thing that they used to, but veganized. And then you sort of discover different vegetables and grains and things like that.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, whatever makes it easiest for you. As I say, for me, what made it easier was taking a bit of a break, a 3-day break from, and detoxing, and just getting it all out of my system. You see what I mean? And then also I think that 3-day break from eating animal foods, etc., or any foods really, it sort of helps you reset your taste buds. It's not like I've just eaten a piece of cheese and then I've eaten a piece of broccoli and wanted the cheese. I'm just glad to be eating food after 3 days. For me that was a good thing. I had no choice, as I say. I had to go full in. For main people, I would say transitional period is best, and I know that's maybe not the most popular opinion amongst ethical veganism, which I understand entirely. But it's what do you want? Do you want a 2-week vegan or do you want a lifetime vegan? It's up to you.
Yeah. So in your eyes, it's a practical long-term solution.
Yes, I mean these these products are still being made, and if they have to have them for a few weeks, even a month, until they've got themselves, into a state where they've got the hang of cooking. They're gradually getting in the hang of cooking without them and reducing them, and they realize they can put that there instead of that. And they're wrapping their head around all the decades of cooking in a certain way. And then I think it's the most practical way of making sure that they stay off eating animals and their products.
So just coming back to your illnesses, do you have any that remain?
I have none now. Well, at the moment I have a bad back, but that's my own fault,
Sure.
and it's nothing to do with anything else. But all the illnesses I had, I'm no longer pre-diabetic. I no longer have any heart arrhythmias. I've actually been to and had scans and stuff on the heart since, and everything's all good.
Wow.
I think one of the problems was the heart chambers were different sizes because of the enlargement and stuff. It was messing up the electrical
Oh,
signals.
wow.
Everything's even now, and
Good.
everything's as it should be, and things like that. As I said, I'm no longer pre-diabetic. I
Yeah.
no longer. I occasionally get a little bit of psoriasis on my elbows or whatever, little patches here and there when I'm stressed out.
Oh, yeah.
It's very, very minimal, very, very minimal. It's hardly anything to speak of. It's like a couple of 1 or 2% on my elbows, and maybe not like 70%
Yeah.
of my body. It's just a bit of a bugger to shake it entirely.
Sure.
I thought I had it at one point. I thought I'd got rid of it completely, but then I got a bit stressed out and got some on my elbows. And I'll be honest, I mean that on my elbows started coming back a bit when I started eating more processed vegan
Okay.
food, which I can always go into that, which probably quite interesting what's happened over the last few months with food, which I'll probably talk about. But if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
With my health issues, zero medications and zero illnesses. Bad back because I've sat on my arse for too long during lockdown, But don't worry, I won't blame that on veganism and go back to eating eggs, fish, chicken, and anything else that I can lay my hands on, claiming it's a miracle cure. I'll get off my arse and start doing some exercise, I'm sure I'll be right again.
And let's quickly just talk about your weight from the worst it was to your best.
Okay, worst it was 34 stone. I lost 14 stone. So, that's a considerable amount. Still have some weight, but because when you're that kind of weight, you do get a degree of skin that won't retract. So you do get some
Oh,
loose
yeah.
skin. So I do have some of that, which is probably a good few pounds. But I lost 14 stone entirely, so I'm not at the end of my my health journey, but I'm so far removed from where I was, health wise, no illnesses, not dying anymore. I hope, well, no quicker than anyone else, hopefully. And everything's so much better. It's unbelievable. And I've not once felt that I've had to do without anything. If anything, I've eaten more variety of food than I've ever eaten. I stopped eating 4 or 5 different animals and started eating hundreds of plants, that I'd never even heard of before. So, I've actually got a more varied diet. And anyone who looks at my Instagram will see that I'm not eating grass. And I didn't just stick to a salad.
Yeah.
So
you must be so proud of what you've accomplished.
No, not really.
Okay.
It's a weird one. Sorry for that.
No, that's fine.
I don't feel proud that I've lost the weight. I'm just overwhelmingly pleased that I'm not dying and I'm around for the children. But I don't feel proud of myself just because I feel that I put myself there. If you see what I mean. I've still got issues. I still beat myself up about things. And I do believe I might as well be honest, I do believe, that I don't feel proud about the weight loss. I'm just glad to be here and glad to be around for my family and stuff. I don't think I've ever felt pride in it though, if you see what I mean.
Okay.
I've had enjoyable moments where I could go and shopping in a normal shop and get a pair of jeans that wasn't, specially ordered, and I felt happy about that. But pride, I don't think is anything I've actually felt about it. I don't think, to be honest.
What about confidence?
Confidence. Oh
Yeah.
I mean, definitely confidence is improved. I mean, you would never catch me on the internet, or I couldn't even go to somebody's family member's house without feeling like not enough confidence to do that. Now I'm shoving myself all over the internet, making my stupid comedy sketches, vegan comedy sketches. I'm going on. I was on Channel 4, on their on national television. Which is, and even though I'm not where I want to be. I thought it's still 14 stone gone, and it still shows the power of plants, so I'm going to do it. Whether it's out of my comfort zone or not, I'm going to show people that even though he's not where he needs to be entirely, he's massively done a turnaround, and it was due to not eating animal products. So I wanted that on TV. I could barely look people in the eye, before this. Confidence levels, they've skyrocketed. My activity levels obviously have improved tremendously as well. Lockdowns, a bit of an exception for everyone.
That's everyone. Yeah.
But going out with the kids, going out with the dogs, going to the gym. Never thought I'd enjoy it. Now I'm crying that it's shut.
Oh, wow.
People always say to me, where do you find the time to keep cooking and doing all this? I said, I took the non-necessary things out of my life. I just stopped doing as many. Don't get me wrong, I still watch a bit of Netflix, and I still play the odd little game here and there. But it's a fraction of what I used to be like.
We're going to cut there to make sure that this episode is a normal length. But remember, you can catch Mark at the Vegan Mooncat on pretty much any social media you want. Although I know he spends most of his time focusing on YouTube, and he uses Instagram to show people the kinds of plant-based foods that they could be enjoying. Next time, we're going to talk to Mark about his foray onto Channel 4 to talk about whole food plant-based diets. And he's going to tell us how he went from a plant-based dieter to a vegan activist. So make sure you come back for that one. See you next time.